Welcome to another edition of the Metal Voice, and we have a very special guest via Skype with us here today. The one and only bassist. He's played with everybody, Rudy Sarzo. Hey Rudy, how you doing?
How you guys doing, Jimmy Allen? I'm doing great.
We're here to promote, a new aspect of your life. We played with many bands, many great singers and guitarists, but now we're going into maybe a next phase here, the Rudy Sarzo Bass Academy. Want to explain what that's about?
Yes. Well, you know what? I've been teaching since the 70s. As a matter of fact, my first teaching opportunity was at Musonia, thanks to Randy Rhoads.
Right.
Musonia is a school that still is running. It's owned and operated by the Rhoads family, and Randy used to teach there before he joined Ozzy. And so at one point he invited me to become part of the teachers, there. And so I've been teaching ever since. Another opportunity for me to teach has been, for the last 8 years, I've been doing Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp.
Right.
And so it's a whole different experience than the Bass Academy, because the Bass Academy, it's more bass-centric than anything else. The Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp gives me an opportunity to expand my teaching to a band situation, even though we also have master classes on bass there too. But it's still one-on-one. Yeah, well, it's actually me in a room with the students, which is a whole different experience than the Bass Academy, because the Bass Academy is Skype. It's online. Okay. And actually, I was really inspired by all of the great mentors that are teaching online now, such as, for example, Dustin Hoffman has an online acting academy.
Okay, yeah. And Brian Vollmer of Helix, he teaches vocal lessons via Skype.
So it's a great platform to be able to share your knowledge.
So you're talking about intermediate to professional, right? No beginners, just guys who really want.
No, beginners also. I mean, I think it's very. As a matter of fact, my first experience as a teacher was with beginners, because back in the 70s, it was mostly students that were part of the Quiet Riot fan base. Oh. And so I have a really good understanding of what beginners need to get straight because when you're a beginner, you have a lot of questions.
Right.
So you have more questions than anything else. So I am very experienced in putting actually beginners in the right path, giving them the fundamentals to start with, to actually create a foundation for where they want to go musically. Okay. Because not every student wants to go in the same music direction. So to me, it's about the student. It's not about what I want to teach them. It's about what they want to learn, which to me is the most important thing.
So you have individual studies there, also in Spanish?
Yes. My first language is Spanish.
Yes.
So I want to be able to also offer, the option and say, listen, I speak Spanish also, and probably you'll be more comfortable as a student if I communicate with you in Spanish rather than to limit it to the English language.
So let's go into your credentials. Okay, Rudy Sarzo. We have so many questions for you, Rudy. We had to we had to create a short list. It could go on forever asking you questions.
Okay.
I even have fan questions afterwards. People are asking me to ask you questions. There's just so many things in your history. So who is Rudy Sarzo? Let's go back to the beginning, the Quiet Riot days.
Back to the beginning. Listen, I was born in Cuba, raised in the United States. My family, I was almost 11 years old when I arrived in the United States in 1961. I am 64 years old.
Oh,
and then the Beatles happened,
right,
within a couple of years for me arriving in the United States. And that changed everything. The whole British invasion really focused me on what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I tell the up-and-coming bands and musicians, I tell them, listen, I was a starving musician until I got that phone call from Ozzy or Sharon, to join, to come and audition for the band. But if you ever stop me in the street and ask me, what are you? I say, hey, I'm a bass player. you know,
Yeah.
Right.
even though I was not making a living out of it, you know, I was, you know, boy, it was, you know, times were tough. I mean, times are tough today for musicians because of the lack of a music industry infrastructure as we knew it back 20 years ago. But times were still tough back in the 70s, even when there was a music industry. You know, not every band got signed. Not every band became successful. I'll give you the example of Quiet Riot. Quiet Riot was the Randy Rhoads version of the band.
Yep.
You know, we were a local Los Angeles band trying to, you know, get that elusive record deal, just like Motley Crue, an early version of Motley Crue and Dokken and Rat and Great White and all of the bands that later on became successful in the 80s. Well, we were all at that time still trying to make it in the late 70s. And as it happens, Van Halen was the last band to get signed after a rock band, local rock
Right.
band. After that, record companies were only interested in new wave and punk. Yeah.
You were in Quiet Riot. Everybody knows, you know, the Mental Health years. Before the Mental Health years, Quiet Riot 2, you joined the band, you're friends with Randy Rhoads, and now you see Quiet Riot reforming. I mean, what's your opinion on that? Is it the right move or the wrong move? Have you been asked to join?
It's just a continuation of the band.
Do you think it's a right move to do?
Well, it's the only move to do. I mean, it's not even a matter of right or wrong. I mean, I don't find anything wrong. I mean,
Yeah,
Frankie,
that's it.
It's yeah, Frankie's carrying on the flag.
Okay.
But then again, you know, these are the same guys that were there since 2005. So it's not like something new. The only exception is it's that, you know, Kevin is not there anymore. And of course, you know, you have to carry on. And now they have a great singer, Jizzy Pearl,
Sure.
you know, in the band. And yeah, the band sounds great. Why not?
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
it.
Celebrate the music.
Celebrate the music.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, exactly. We just did about 3 shows, Gonzo and with Quiet Riot, and it was great. As a matter of fact, Frank even asked me to get up there and sit in for Come On Feel the Noise at one of the shows. And yeah, it's wonderful.
Kevin Dubrow, I don't want to speak ill of the dead here, but between you and him, over the years, it's like the love-hate relationship. I mean, you seem like the
Yeah, but
nicest. You seem like the nicest guy in the world. The nicest guy in the world. Well, I mean, I don't think it was you, right? I mean, what was going on? Why did he?
To be honest with you, I've had conversations with Frankie, and we cannot pinpoint it what it was, but I can tell you it was never anything that would have not been solved with a phone call.
Right.
Oh, that's.
You know, life's too short to be carrying any grudges or any, you know, negative baggage with you. So, you know, as a matter of fact, I was in shock when somebody called me up and told me the news of Kevin's passing. You know, it was, you know, it hit me like a sledgehammer. You know, I mean, this is a guy that I lived with even before I joined Ozzy. I went from living with Kevin to actually going on tour with Ozzy. You know, and then every time that we were that Ozzy would go on a break, you know, Randy and I would go back to LA, and I would just, you know, keep hanging out with Kevin. You know,
Yeah.
he was our best friend, and Quiet Riot, you know, Quiet Riot, Randy Rhoads, band member. You know, and then when Randy passed, you know, I got the invitation by Kevin to play on Thunderbird, which is a song that I actually was playing with Kevin while we played together in Dubrow. And so I knew the song, and it's a song that he wrote for Randy when he left Quiet Riot to join Ozzy. So as I said, right after I finished recording the song, they, you know, Kevin and the producer asked me if I remember any of the other songs that we used to play that actually wound up on the record, such as Slick Back Cadillac, Let's Get Crazy, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I have incredibly wonderful memories with Kevin, you know, playing with him, living with him, hanging with him.
I guess I was always shocked, you know, every time he would say, you know, in the later years, he would just have these negative remarks about you. I go, how can you say such bad things about Rudy? I don't know, it was always puzzling me. I always wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, but you know what, you know, that's in the past, you know, right now, to me, the most significant thing that any Quiet Riot alumni can do is to celebrate Quiet Riot,
Right.
you know, not drag it through the mud. You know, that's That's not for me.
And we had the chance of watching the DVD of the Quiet Riot documentary where Frankie goes and meets you, and you both have a chuckle over the publishing rights for that first album of Metal Health, where you signed for like 0 publishing rights. The worst record deal in history.
No, you know, I would not say it's the worst record deal in history, because that was basically the reference that the producer had was actually pretty much a Motown reference. I mean, and even before Motown, oh my God, we're not the first band to sign a bad record deal. But then again, it was the only record deal available.
That's
and you have to take into consideration that, you know, record deal is only a portion of the income stream of any group. You have merchandising, you have touring, you have branding, you have a sponsorship and things like that. So yeah, you know, we did sign a bad publishing and record deal. Not the first, not the last.
Yeah.
But we did have other income streams.
So jumping into your book that you wrote a few years back, Off the Rails.
Yeah.
Great book.
The story of, we shall say, Randy Rhoads in his time with Ozzy Osbourne, as well as your life and your time in Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, okay, we all know the story now. The book's been out for a while, but what has been the reaction over the years with this book?
Oh, I mean, you know, people have been very thankful that I've been able to share my experience with Randy, because it's not just about the Ozzy years. It's also about the Quiet Riot years. You know, because it was a whole different Randy Rhoads. It was a whole different, you know. Randy Rhoads in LA during the Quiet Riot years was the Randy Rhoads that, along with the band, we were trying to get a record deal. And we were trying to basically please the industry, you know, give them what they want. About the book, you know, I wrote it to answer the number one question, which is that I get asked as I travel around the world, which is what was it like to play with Randy Rhoads, you know. And so I do talk about Randy with Quiet Riot, because it was a different Randy Rhoads. And then when he joined Ozzy, Ozzy gave him the freedom for Randy to be himself, not to be the Randy Rhoads member of Quiet Riot that was trying to please the Los Angeles record company,
right.
You know, industry, you know. So that's where you get the real Randy Rhoads, you know. I mean, or the Randy Rhoads that is free to explore all musical possibilities.
Like songs like "Diary of a Madman," and that's just for me, that epitomizes Randy Rhoads. You got the classical influence, and you've got the heavy guitars coming in later on.
And what's really amazing about Diary of a Madman is that Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman were actually recorded within months of each other. I think maybe 4 months. Yeah. From one to the other, you know, they finished Blizzard, then they went and did a UK tour with Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake, and then they went back in the studio and did Diary of a Madman. And if you listen to Diary, and I can tell you this because I was in the bus when Ozzy got the mix version of the record, and I saw his expression, and I heard how he felt about it. He thought it was crap, the mix, because if you actually look back at that record, it was the first album of the '80s to be mixed with so much ambience.
Okay.
You know, it sounds like an '80s record, and nobody had heard that before. You know, all the ambience, all the reverb, everything that was going on, completely different from the sound of the Blizzard of Oz. And Ozzy had no idea that this was going to be the sound of the future.
And what's your take on it? I mean, these are landmark albums, Blizzard Oz and Diary of a Madman. And then, you know, I mean, you're a bassist. I mean, they removed the bass at one point and the drums. I mean, imagine they went to Quiet Riot Metal Health and they removed your bass parts there. I mean, what was your opinion when, for me, I was outraged. But I mean, what's your opinion, being a bassist and someone who was in the band?
I mean, you can't really compare my situation with Metal Health, because as I understand, the person that was signed to the record deal, which is Jet Records, was Ozzy Osbourne. So he is part of the record deal. he has the record deal.
Yeah.
I don't believe I don't believe from the information that I have that the other members were signed directly to the record deal. Whereas my situation with Quiet Riot, I am a quarter of the record deal. I am signed to the label.
Okay.
So when you're signed to the label, in the contract, it stipulates certain conditions, such as that really covers replacements of the tracks. So that would have never really been the case with the Quiet Riot situation with me, because it's in paper, it's a signed contract.
Ozzy's and Sharon's book, that's what I thought happened as well, because to get them away from the legalities and the constant litigation, they had no choice but to go in and erase those, redo the bass and drum track. So
I guess for me it was, do you find it was a right thing to do? I mean, you know, sort of like tampering with a legacy of, you know, those first two albums.
I think that the current decision to go back to the original masters and re-release those speaks for itself. So there's your answer.
All right. Quick fan questions for you. You ready? From Khalil, Ozzy or Dio?
Apples and oranges. I love them both.
Ozzy or Dio? That's the question.
No. You can't say that. They're very different singers.
Dean, most interesting country you've played in around the world?
Most interesting country. Interesting. Well, the former Soviet republics, just because it's interesting to see a country in progressing.
how would people get in touch with you, Rudy, if they wanted to do the Bass Academy?
I can be reached at Rudy Sarzo Bass Academy at gmail.com.
Okay.
And on Facebook at Rudy Sarzo Bass Academy. And sessions begin in August.
Perfect.
Upon my return from Gonzo Tour.
So there you have it, the legend, Rudy Sarzo.
Thank you so much, Jimmy and Alan.
Pleasure.
And hopefully I get to visit you guys in Montreal, one of my favorite cities in the world. Beautiful. I love the architecture, and some of my favorite things come out of Montreal.
Perfect.
Such as Gino Vanelli.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got to record the tribute album there with Ozzy and Randy and Tommy.
Yep.
So I have great memories of that.
Well, it was a pleasure, Rudy. You've been a guest we've been wanting to have on the show for years. Thank you for your time. All the best with the Bass Academy and your next tour. And it was a real pleasure speaking to you today.
You too, Jimmy and Alan. God bless you.